Today we are going to address the question of the timing of taking the RT-PCR test or the antigen test, and where is your point of embarkation. We are going to clarify that. But there are two things that I'm going to mention to you. One is, what is a clear-cut statement on the IATF resolution, black and white, and the other one is the use of human judgment. Two things. When I talk about human judgment, I will tell you that is just my opinion, okay? And that technically should be the way it should be interpreted by those immigration people, but not necessarily so, because human judgment plays a role. That's what we'll talk about. Stay with me. There were too many questions I received, and that's why I am creating this posting regarding this RT-PCR test, antigen test, 48 hours. When do you start the 48 hours? When do you stop the 48 hours? And such. First, let's take a look at the IATF resolution, which is black and white. But just like anything else, they cannot come up with a black and white resolution that covers everything. Human judgment always plays a role. Let's see, it says, present a negative RT-PCR test taken within 48 hours, if it's that kind of test, or for a negative rapid antigen test, it will be 24 hours. Administered and certified by professionals in the healthcare facility, laboratory, clinic, pharmacy, or other similar establishments. I don't know why they came up with this resolution, because to me that was clear before. Why are they making a statement? Because before they did not mention pharmacy, and some people in the Philippines at the border were being questioned, gee, this is not taken in a laboratory or a hospital or healthcare. So I guess they came up with this resolution to clarify it. Makes sense. But you can still see here, it says, or other similar establishments. So they're leaving a catch-all provision for anything that they may have not covered. Again, human judgment will play a role. This is where it says within 24 hours, this is for the antigen test, prior to the date and time of departure from the country of first port of embarkation. So we're going to clarify that, okay? Now, remember, they're counting hours, not days. They didn't say 1 day or 2 days. They said 24 hours or 48 hours. So you have to count hours. From country of first port of embarkation. So where is for first port of embarkation? It says, in a continuous travel to the Philippines, excluding layovers, provided that she has not left the airport premises or has not been admitted into another country during such layover. If I were you, I would buy a ticket. Don't buy a separate ticket domestic, let's say from Philadelphia to New York, and then another ticket from New York to the Philippines. So in my case, I'll have a ticket. It's in one reservation page. Manila to New York to Taiwan. This is EVA. And then Taiwan to Philippines. And in fact, Philadelphia to New York may not even be EVA, because EVA doesn't fly from Philadelphia. So I'm taking Delta. But it's in the same airport. I don't have to leave the airport. It's in the same airport. So that counts as my point of embarkation being Philadelphia. Now, if I went to New York and then visited my son in Connecticut and drove around, and then the next day I went to New York, then New York will be my point of embarkation. That is when you compute the 24 or 48 hours. Let's give you an example. I'm leaving Philadelphia at 10 o'clock in the morning. Let's say May 3rd. I should get my antigen test on May 2nd at 10 o'clock in the morning. No earlier. It could be later, but no earlier. It has to be within, not without, within 24 hours. Okay, is that clear? Now, the issue about the pharmacy, as I mentioned earlier, before they did not mention it and some people were rejecting it, so now they came up with a solution. It includes CVS, that's a pharmacy. That's laboratory based. The only thing that they want to avoid is for people to do this home test kit, self-test kit, and then present it to the immigration office as if it's a pregnancy test. No, it has to come from a laboratory. A pharmacy is included and is listed now. Layover. It does not matter if you have a 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour layover or 10-hour layover. As long as it's a layover, that means you don't leave the airport. Now, technically, how would the immigration office know if, gee, I have 10 hours here, I can go shopping and go out and go and come back in? How would they know that? They wouldn't know. Assuming you can do that. Especially if you have 2 separate tickets. That's the reason why I said, make it 1 itinerary, 1 ticket. But I'm just saying to you that as a practical matter, they may not even know. The other thing is, for example, I don't know now, I haven't flown in San Francisco for a while, but when I came to this country, the international airport is different from the domestic airport. So I had to walk out of the airport. In that case, I would think that this rule will apply, that as long as you do not leave the airport. But would they consider the 2 separate terminals as one and the same airport? I don't know. That's when judgment call is going to come. But as I mentioned earlier, these people probably have not even traveled outside the United States, so they don't know what the situation is. They don't know what airport you're coming out of and what airport you're getting into. They may not know that. But if it's in the same itinerary and you show it as such, then I think you're good to go. But again, subject to those. So if you happen to know somebody, or if you happen to go with someone who is very familiar, for example, with the airport situation, another one is in Chicago. They have 2 airports in Chicago. Philippines, we have several airports. So we don't know what those airports are going to be. And guess what? I bet you they don't know either. So try to get 1 ticket. Now, another question is, well, what happens to flight delays? They say, for example, PAL is always late. PAL stands for plane always late. That's PAL. Anyway, what do you do in case of flight delay? Personally, I don't think they should care. As long as it shows in the itinerary that, let's say you're leaving at 3 o'clock, doesn't matter if you wind up leaving at 8 o'clock at night because of flight delays. First of all, would they know that there's a flight delay when it arrives in Manila? Unless it's a very, very lengthy delay. Then they will say, no, it will be okay. But that is not within your control. That is not something you can predict. Obviously, if you know that it won't leave until 8 o'clock, you will time your antigen test and PCR test accordingly. But you don't know that. So common sense tells you that they should go with the scheduled flight schedule, the original flight schedule. Now, here is the problem when you're dealing with the immigration people. Same thing with the airline people. Same in the United States as it is in the Philippines. The same thing. It's because it's human nature. Especially the ones who never had any responsibility before, and now they're given the responsibility of, okay, I will be the one approving these people, whether they can come in or leave or whatnot. They pretend to know facts. One viewer of mine said that he argued to a point that he was yelling. He was on top of his voice, so it was heard by somebody else, so the supervisor came over to see what's going on. He knew he was right. The agent was saying, no, he is correct. The agent, okay, the immigration officer. So the supervisor came, and the supervisor agreed with the passenger, the traveler. So he was sort of embarrassed because he pretends to know it. And that's the reason why, in my case, I say, if I know that I'm right and he is wrong, I say, with all due respect, please don't take any offense. May I speak to the supervisor, please? Politely say that, and then discuss it with the supervisor. Because chances are, this guy is exercising judgment that goes beyond what he knows. So, that is just human nature. That happens everywhere. And therefore, I'm making it clear that this, what I showed you here, is black and white, what is in the resolution. Other things, human judgment will come into play. And I explained to you how I believe it should be interpreted. If it is not within your control, it is not within your control. So go with the flight schedule time and have one itinerary that shows the connecting flights. Even if it's a long layover, it shows as a layover. But technically, if you leave the airport, legally or illegally, you are violating this mandate. But would they know? In my opinion, they wouldn't know. So that's all I have to share with you today. Please do share this with other people. I'll appreciate it. And please do subscribe to my channel unless you have already done so. And please click that notification bell so you get notified of new postings. And I'll appreciate it if you can click like. Thank you. Make it a great day. And God bless.